Have you thought about being a resident assistant? Or an acronym for that is just an RA? If you have, you stumbled across the right episode. Welcome back to another episode of Darius College Steps to Success. And today we'll be talking about my last 3 years as an experience as a whole of being an RA while balancing school, while balancing other part-time things that I have to do, and kind of give you all insight for those of you that are thinking about becoming an RA in your college career. So first, I want to talk about the role of an RA. So that is to serve as a mentor, leader, and specifically a resource for students. So somebody to call on when problems are happening, someone to look to about what events are going on around campus, how to get there, or if we as RAs, because we plan events, are we holding events for the community? So again, that is to serve as a mentor, a leader, and resource for residents. So we are supposed to have all the answers, and we're supposed to be the people to go to. Or if we don't have the answers, we ask our supervisors so we can tell the resident how to go about joining a club, or how to get involved, or when an event is happening, and so on and so forth. So a part of that is helping build a safe, inclusive, and engaging community. So again, that goes around with planning events, whether that's on the floor. In my first 2 years, we were planning a lot of events on my floor. I used to live on the 6th floor and in the dorms. So we would plan a lot of events on my floor, or we would plan them in the lounge space areas, or we had classrooms in our building. So we would plan those over there to kind of help engage the community and help people, make new friends and help people get out of their shell. So that's kind of what contributed to helping us engage the community, which we had countless amounts of game nights. My first 2 years, we had a bunch of game nights. Those did numbers, because everybody who doesn't like games, whether that's virtual, whether that's card games, and most, if not all of our events always offer snacks, juice boxes, fruit snacks, or actual food. And so the actual food would get people to really come, because sometimes people get tired of the tower dining, the dining hall food, and they just want a change of food that they can eat. So we also help enforce policies while supporting student growth and well-being. So enforcing policies when we're kind of on call at nights. Every RA at one point over the course of the 8 months of a school year is on call multiple times, which is throughout the night. We pick up the phone at a certain time, we drop it off in the morning. So we're on call in case there are noise complaints, in case there are roommate conflicts that happen through the night, in case there are other things that happen. There's always going to be an RA on call, or the front desk is open throughout the day. And so we kind of help enforce those policies to make sure that every student is able to be equally fair to each other and equally fair to the policies, and we are enforcing those things. As far as policies go, one of the biggest things here on this campus was, like, my first 2 years would be like noise complaints, because I would be over in the dorms and the walls would be this thin, like not even my head, they're really like thin, so you can hear what the person is next to the wall like saying at almost all times. And even if it gets a little louder than that, you can hear everything. So one of the most calls I answered, next to lockouts, because a lot of people tend to get locked out, were noise complaints. Those both go hand in hand. Noise complaints and the lockouts. I got most of those calls throughout my time here. And so that's kind of one of the things. We have other policies. There's like guest policies where residents aren't allowed to have people over more than 72 hours at a time, which is like 3 days. Because at that point, you might as well be paying rent. You might as well be charging this person rent, because they are not up under contract. You are. And so it kind of just depends on the situation and how you go about things. But that's a little bit of the policies that we have. There's a whole list of policies of what you can have, what you can't have. But I'm not going to go through everything today, or maybe ever. So yeah. So time management and balance. So juggling kind of academics plus RA duties and personal life, it sometimes can get tiring at times, because you have to have a calendar. I have 3 different calendars that I use just so I don't forget. I have like my Google calendar, and I have my personal calendar, and then I have like one more calendar, I think, the Outlook calendar that I use to remind myself on, because there's so many things going on. We're at the end of the semester where we have to sign up for move out shifts, help get residents squared away and moved out. We have to have move out meetings on top of finishing up classes and exams that we're trying to complete. And so it sometimes gets a lot when at the beginning and at the end of each semester. In between, you kind of have a good look of where you want to be at, and a good look at your schedule and how that's going to complement how things are going to go. But at the beginning and at the end of semesters, they kind of get a little hectic only because you have to do like room checks and you have to check residents in and out and have meetings at times that kind of align with your schedule. And then if all your residents cannot come, then you're gonna have to reach out to them separately to make sure that they do know that, hey, our move out is May 11th, like this time. If all the residents don't come, even if you say mandatory, because they have other stuff going on, you have to make sure you have to reach out to them separately on your own time after the meeting so they can get everything that they need for it. So they're not confused or lost, because move out and move in are very chaotic times, as well as damage charges that people are like, I didn't do this damage. This was already here, or my roommate did it, so what do I do about this, and all of these other things. So as far as like juggling stuff, I think it gets really busy at the beginning and end semesters. In between, it can get a little busier than normal, but I think over the last 3 years, the beginning and end of the semesters, when I'm trying to correlate my schedule about when I'm free, when I can help people at the desk and help them move out. But with academics, it gets kind of busy because we do have staff meetings at late at night, on Tuesdays, where they have those staff meetings because they make sure that you do not have anything you are going to do from 9 to 11 on Tuesday. So almost every Tuesday for the last 3 years during the school year, most of the time I've had meetings from 9 to 11 on Tuesdays. And sometimes I'm not even there because I'm just ready to go to bed, especially this semester with like student teaching. There's like a lot of things that go on. You have to kind of correlate your schedule. I don't know. This might not be everyone's, kind of like depending on what university you go to. But for my university I go to, we have staff meetings late, so we make sure we don't miss important information. And so that's another thing, kind of crossing out that time slot to make sure like you are able to be there at those meetings. That's part of like juggling academics and your personal life, canceling stuff that needs to be canceled, or making sure you're on time for things. That kind of correlates to learning to prioritize and stay organized with your schedule, because a lot of us aren't just RAs. I don't think I know anybody that is in like housing right now that is just an RA. They're either an RA, and all of us are students in general, but they're either an RA or over a club or in this or in this or in that, or are managing other things, and also managing their grades, which are first priority. So most, if not all, RAs are doing more than just being an RA. They're doing more because they're trying to make sure that their resume looks good enough to be able to get a job after their college career. So kind of juggling with those schedules to make sure, if you're going to be involved, make sure you have your schedule and make sure you lay it out, just so you know where you're going to be, how you're going to be there. If you need to tell somebody that you need to switch your time, if you can't make a meeting, once every now and then, you make sure you communicate that openly. Another thing I want to talk about is being on call. We call it on duty here. When you're on call, you're like, I mentioned this earlier, that you pick up the phone at a certain time and then you drop it off in the morning. So you're on call throughout the night, just in case, like I said, any of those complaints arise, as well as like noise complaints, maybe an EMS call, maybe, lockouts, because people are always getting locked out, and kind of all the other calls as well. Those are just kind of like a snippet of what calls that we get throughout the night. But being on call, you have to make sure that you are alert. The ringer is up. We were told the ringer's up. My ringer's always been up every single night, because it really shocks me awake every time I get a call. Sometimes you get a call at 2 in the morning. Sometimes you can get a call at 3 in the morning. Sometimes you get a call at, any time of night. And I remember my first time being on call, I could not sleep. I could not sleep for the life of me. It was because it was my first time being on call 3 years ago. It was August, and I was just like, I think I ended up getting a couple calls that night, but I tossed and turned because I just knew I was going to get a call. I just knew most of the time, you probably will, but there have been countless times where I don't get a call at all and I could sleep like a baby. But my first time being on call, just go to sleep. Just if you wake up, if you get a call, then you get a call, then you have to answer it. But it's kind of hard because you've never, been on call before. You've never held the phone overnight, especially, do after hours, so anything could happen or arise throughout the night when you're on call over like the whole building. You'll have a duty partner or on-call partner that helps respond to calls with you if you want them to, or you can respond to them by themselves. And there's also a supervisor on call with you, just so you're not dealing with it alone. Just so if an escalated incident happens, they are there for you and they are able to help you out and such. So on top of that, the supervisors they're also on call person. So RAs, we're on call. Then our supervisors are on call where they cycle through the phones as well as we do. And then the people above our supervisors, their supervisors are also on call. So everybody's on call at a certain amount of time within the housing and residence life to be able to answer escalated situations. If, like me as an RA, I'm not comfortable with like dealing with it, or something has escalated really terribly and I was told not to handle it, and call my supervisor right away. So how often am I on call? It depends. Sometimes I put all my on-call shifts at one time. Like this past week, I was on call 3 times within 5 days. Do not do that. I mean, luckily I got like very minimal calls and nothing like calling me all throughout the night. But I remember I scheduled a back-to-back call one time, and this is before like the desk will be open. And so we had to hold the phone like throughout the whole Saturday and then throughout the whole Sunday. And so I had back-to-back shifts and I was tired. I was burnt out when Monday arrived. So if you can help it, don't do back-to-back calls, because then you'll get burnt out, you'll get tired. Sometimes you may not, because you may not even get a single call, but I had got a lot of calls within that short amount of time. So it depends on when you schedule your shifts. You might schedule one shift a month, or you might schedule like 5 in that month to be able to catch up. There's a quota that we have to meet for each RA to be able to be like, all right, I'm done with my shifts. And so my quota is met on April 20th. So that's my last shift. And for the rest of the semester, I mean, that's not much left, because semester would end like 2-3 weeks from then. So it depends, and it depends on your schedule. We all do a lot of negotiating within our RA, our crew, to be able to be like, hey, can I get this Monday? Or if we need to be able to trade shifts, that's another thing. You can trade shifts. Supervisors will let you trade shifts because things come up. You might have checked your schedule. You thought you were off this day. You needed this other day off or something, or so on and so forth. So everything isn't set in stone. You can switch your shift. You can drop a shift, pick one up later, and I'm sure somebody else will pick it up. That's how it's kind of been flowing in the RA crew here, where I'm working at this year. So a little bit about conflict resolutions. Gosh, can't get the word out. Resolutions, and that's mediating roommate disagreements and community issues. And so we have roommate contracts, where I try to emphasize to my residents at the very beginning of the school year to fill them out, because if a roommate conflict arises, then it's going to be really hard to like dissect where things went wrong at. So here at the apartments, we didn't have a lot of people fill them out just because they're adults. They don't feel like they need to. But back in the dorms when I used to, a lot of my residents would fill them out, and I did have to do maybe like 1 or 2 roommate conflicts at most in between like there. But then there's also like hallway conflicts that arise too, because some people might be being too loud at night and all this other stuff. But we do have roommate conflicts that we try to emphasize that for residents to be able to do. So when we look back at it in 3 or 4 months, we are able to dissect it back. All right, you weren't following this thing that you said that you were going to do, and this has kind of gotten out of control, and this has escalated. So we try our best to emphasize we can't force our residents to fill it out. Unfortunately, we can't literally force your hand and fill it out on your phone, but we try our best to encourage the residents to be able to fill out the roommate agreement, just because how things might go. And again, you might be rooming with someone with high school. You might think like, oh, yeah, I'm good, I don't need to do this and all this other stuff. But then something might arise 3 or 4 months later, 5 months later, and then you might not be friends anymore. That's just kind of how the reality of it, because you outgrown each other. And so that's one of the big things that we try to emphasize at the beginning of the semester. So that kind of involves like finding solutions, and then we like collaborating with supervisors to figure out what's the best possible way to handle the solution. Do our supervisors need to be there? Can we handle it by ourselves? Do we need another RA to help us out? How should we go about dissecting the situation? So that kind of falls all up under conflict resolution. Event planning and community building. So we do plan events here. We've planned study tables here, which has kind of just been kind of chill, low key, come in. You could just grab a snack and study for maybe 10, 15 minutes just to get a peace of mind, because I can't study. I cannot study in my room. It's really hard to study in my room because I have distractions. So I always have to find a different place to study. So we plan study tables and stuff, or we, like I mentioned earlier, we might plan a game night to help just relieve stress and to help you be able to not think about school all the time. And so again, the game nights, the educational stuff, we have our SJRAs that do educational stuff. Those are the social justice resident assistants to kind of educate stuff on what's going on around today's topics and today's world problems that are happening. So they educate us. They hold plenty of events throughout the school year. And us RAs, we hold events. We can hold events anytime that we want to. We just put stuff on the shopping cart list and people go and get them, and we hold the events. And so I know a lot of people are coming. We're coming at the end of the semester, so some people might hold like a final exam, like study practice thing, or just put stuff on a shopping cart list and put like the goodie bags, arm residents, door handles, and all that other stuff to say, hey, like, finish strong. You got this. You got less than a month to finish off this school year. So there are plenty of events that us RAs can plan. It kind of depends on what community that you do have and what curriculum is being in place. Because I know my first year as an RA, we planned like a lot of events. Either you had to plan on the floor, in the classrooms, on the first floor, and do a whole bunch of stuff. So we did plan a bunch of events my first year, and then we dialed it down back my second year to kind of meeting us in between, where so it kind of depends on if you have curriculum you want to follow, if your university has curriculum they're following, or you just want to plan one like for your residents just for fun, just because you need a break. Well, that involves you kind of planning, but they need a break and kind of such. So yeah, it kind of really depends. So with that, we're trying to encourage participation. We would hang up flyers on the door, kind of knock on residents' door. Some people don't like us knocking. That's just the truth. Some people want us to knock and remind them that, hey, there's free food down here. There's pasta, there's pizza, there's chips or cookies, there's snacks you could take up because you got a late night tonight. So we try to encourage participation and making the students feel seen and valued by creating those inclusive spaces. So we also handle like emergencies, like I said, with the crisis responses. So that can go from mental health crisis to facility issues. You got to be able to be a calm presence in knowing when and how to escalate situations, when and how to manage those. So there are crisis responses that happen, which I said that those can involve your supervisor or their supervisors getting involved. It kind of just depends on the residents, the hall you're on call with, or your university, and how they want you to handle certain things. So that kind of goes hand in hand with understanding confidentiality and mandated reporting. So as soon as things happen, reporting it right away. I remember I had something that I need to report like that night, but I forgot to. I waited till the morning. I already had an email saying, here's the where's the report on this? And I totally forgot. And I was just so tired because I just wanted to get to bed, and I had a 9 a.m. that morning. And so I was already up to like 1, 2 in the morning trying to deal with it. But they making sure you fill that out and document it. So if something like that does happen again, they want to document that like right away so they can get the process going, and so they can be able to figure out the problem solving that they need to do, maybe switching roommates or maybe dialing back on some other things that are happening around like the residence hall. So filling out those reports is very important for our supervisors and for their supervisors, so they can get the whole picture of how things are going like right away, ASAP, so they can write that up. So personal growth, this kind of helps really develop leadership and communication. And so this kind of helps you develop those decision-making skills. Learning to advocate for yourself and for others really helps. And then you become kind of a trusted figure in the campus community because you're an RA. So just by you walking down the hallway, I think I would have this like last year. I had a lot of problems on my floor, but I know like as soon as I would leave, they would do something stupid. I'm just be honest. They would do something stupid because I was not there. And then as soon as I walked down the hallway, like I would hear like they had some type of whistle call or something specifically for me last year. So they knew when I was coming. I don't know how or when, there's my patterns, my schedule, and all that other stuff, just because I'm your RA and I'm there to enforce the rules. But they had some type of whistle, or I don't remember what it was, but to notify their friends that I was coming. Because you're not supposed to be throwing a football halfway, across the floor while other people are kind of walking. This isn't like your own personal apartment complex, and you rolling down the chairs and, taking stuff off. You're not supposed to be doing that. All right. So I'm going to just say that, you're not supposed to be doing that. So kind of having that presence is important, because then if you just feel like I don't care, then they're going to kind of keep doing it. And especially like when you are there. And so I had to make sure that my presence was was there, and I had to spend more time on my floor last year. It just had to be done. And it kind of depends on what residents you have, what type of people you have, what's your floor, what's your community. And so that kind of dictates like what problems you may have throughout the school year, what issues might arise. It depends on the people. Each year is never the same if you do more than 1 year as an RA. Like my first year, it was kind of mellow. It was kind of in between. I had problems here and there. My second year, it was very chaotic. And then my third year was very chill. So this year has been very chill. So it depends on your people that you get for your residents. So some other things is like you might have to do like some challenges faced as well as like having difficult conversations or disciplinary actions like, hey, I'm gonna have to write you up because you did this, you did ABC, XYZ. Like this is kind of how it's gonna have to do like confrontation. You're gonna have to have that. You can't be afraid for confrontation. And that's something I had to learn because I'm like, I had to avoid confrontation like before this role, and I was just like, I'm gonna just let it go and do all this other stuff. But ever since in this role, I've become a little bit more, not a little bit more, way more confrontational with people and kind of how things go. And these are the rules, and this is kind of how to do stuff. I become more open and just about how disciplinary action should go. That kind of has it. So you're kind of balancing being a peer. That's one of the things that in our training they talked about is kind of balancing being a peer and a authority figures, when to be a friend to people and when to kind of have those boundaries, that B word, boundaries, kind of having those in place because you just don't know how it's gonna go with people. Because I'm like, oh yeah, this guy's chill and all this other stuff, I can get away with this. But also your residents knowing that I can't get away with this because he or they are walking down the hallway and they see me and they're gonna write me up and all this other stuff. That brings me to another point, which some people might be interested. I think a lot of people are interested in. It's like the perks and benefits of being an RA. So that is free housing or discounted housing. I don't know the gist of all universities around the United States how it go, but here as the campus I go to, it is you get free housing and you get a meal plan and then early move in with those training opportunities. We sometimes move in, I think 2 to 3 weeks earlier than residents to be able to, decorate our room, get settled in, not having to rush and be right there at training like the next day. So you kind of get a little bit of time to come in on the weekend for a few days, move all your stuff in, get everything situated, decorate your walls and stuff, and be able to just chill before all the residents come. I mean, yes, you have like training and stuff you have to do and whatnot and prepare for a move-in, but you get to chill and it's free housing for the school year. And so you're able to use that and be able to have your own room, because I've had my own room for the last 3 years, and boy oh boy, I need my own room because just having space and peace to myself, I value that above like anything else in college. And so having to be able to be by myself and not having to come back to a roommate where I kind of have to force myself to say hi to or kind of be in the vicinity of to is kind of nice. No, not kind of, it is nice to be able to come back to my own room and kind of just chill and relax and study and do all these other things without having a roommate. So I think for me, that has been the biggest bonus for all of the 3 years I've been in RA, is having my own room and also it being paid for. So, and I could go through a whole bunch of stuff and a whole bunch of other chaos and stuff in the RA world, but being able to just come back to my own room and be by myself, I value that really highly. And so if you are thinking about being kind of like an RA, I just have some tips. And if you're thinking about applying for the next school year, just if you get selected or if you're thinking about it, be approachable, but set boundaries. That B word that I was talking about. Be approachable, set boundaries. Don't be afraid to ask for help from staff or other RAs. I think my first year, the returning RAs did a very good job of answering my questions, making sure I was on top of stuff, being able to know what we had to do. And so I value that really, really much, because in training, they can only teach you so much. And so the returning RAs, that's not like their job, but they're just there to know, answer those questions as you're going through the RA role, because it's a fresh role. You've never been in it before. Training is only preparation before the real thing. Let me say that again. Training is only preparation before the real thing that you have to put yourself into. And so being able to ask those returning RAs who have already been in a role for a year or 2 years was really helpful, and be able to make me a good or a great RA to be able to be on top of my things for all 3 years. And so don't be afraid, again, to ask for help from the staff, from other RAs, from the higher ups, from anybody to be able to help you succeed in the role. And so that's very important to be able to have success in the RA role. And lastly, take time for yourself. And even during busy times, like take time for yourself, relax, take a time to just be by yourself or decompress. I think my first year as an RA, I was really burnt out. Yeah, I was really burnt out. I think in October, that was the first year I experienced burnout because I was not taking care of myself. I was not taking time for myself. It was in October, and I only been in RA for like 2 months. August, September, October, so 3 months. And I was just, one day, I just went into my room, closed the curtains, and just laid there for hours just because I was burnt out, and I wasn't realizing that I'm not taking time for myself. I'm not reeling back from things that I need to do. But your mental health is the priority, and also finishing school. So making sure that you reel back when you need to be, when times are needed in the RA role is very important, because most of us, like me, you're juggling the RA role. You're juggling being a student. You're also in other organizations on campus. You're also in other scholars programs. You're also going to conferences and presentations. And some of us might be, student teaching or doing clinical rotations or doing internships throughout the school. It's a lot. So kind of taking that time for yourself to be able to realize like, hey, I need a break, and I'm not going to do anything this weekend, or I'm going to get everything done on this one day so I can relax for the next 3 or 4 days. And although that might not be able to happen every single time, you have to acknowledge that, hey, I need a break. So thanks for listening to this episode of Darius College Steps to Success, about learning my role, what I've been through as an RA for the last 3 years, the perks, the benefits, the things that you could gain from it, being real all in all with it for people that want to be an RA, that are thinking about being an RA, that just push you more, that just reel you back to not be one or apply to be an RA. Thanks for listening. I hope you all enjoyed with your popcorn or your soda. I don't know why I always say popcorn. I don't even really like popcorn like that. So maybe just like a granola bar, or maybe dinner. How about that? How about dinner? So hope you all enjoyed this episode, Darius College Steps to Success, and I'll be back with another one real soon. Peace.